Women in Focus, a podcast by British Naturism. Hi, and welcome to Women in Focus, a podcast that is all about women, for women, by women, although men are encouraged to listen too, as we empower ourselves to collectively strip away our clothes and the highly restrictive society-placed barriers upon our bodies and venture into naturism. This show will explore how my guests have shed their clothes and freed up their minds, leading them towards a more fulfilling life in all areas, one that no longer keeps them restricted in any manner, including emotionally, physically, mentally, and in all other ways. I am your host, Helen Berryman, and I'm excited that you are here to take this journey with me and my guests on Women in Focus. My first guest is Linda Webber. Linda was actually my first contributor for the Women in Focus written series, and Linda is a big deal in naturism. She ambassadors for women in nude recreation on behalf of ANNA, which is American Association of Nude Recreation. She's prolific on Twitter and all social medias, promoting naturism in all the right ways. I've actually met Linda twice now. She came to the UK last year, which was 2022, and her husband came to the Naturist Foundation, and so she got to see where I worked. We hang out for the day. And then earlier this year, we had the pleasure of going on the nude cruise with Bare Necessities, and I didn't tell Linda that I was going, but I knew that she would be there. So everyone kept it a secret, and I found her on the boat and just went, "Hi, Linda!" And she was like, "Oh my God." But yeah, so up now is Linda Webber. Hello, Linda.
Hey, Helen.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thank you for joining us on the Women in Focus first podcast. I've explained a little bit what it's about. The Women in Focus series was a written series on British Naturism's website, and now we're following it up with a podcast to revisit the women we've already spoken to. Linda was my first contributor and has agreed to talk with us now. So, Linda, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's great to be on the podcast. This is, I think, an exciting program. I'm Linda Webber. I am in the United States. I am a British Naturism member as well. I am a director with the American Association for Nude Recreation here in the United States, and I am part of the Women in Nude Recreation program here. And I'm also on the Beaches Foundation as a governor, which is a nudist-centered organization as well.
Wow, so you've got quite a lot going on in regards to naturism, but where did it all begin?
Well, you know what? It actually began when I was younger. I was in my teens and I just didn't like clothes. I thought they were a judgment tool. I didn't feel comfortable in them. And so I started kind of sleeping nude. And then I'd come home from school and just rip off the clothes, and wasn't a popular concept with my parents. We were fairly religious, and but they understood while I was doing it. I wasn't doing it to be rebellious or anything like that. I just didn't feel comfortable in clothes. So that's kind of how it started.
Was it more how clothes made you feel, or was it societal standards to dress in a certain way or be identified by the clothes that you're wearing?
Absolutely. It was used as a judgment tool. And when you're in junior high or high school, here in the States, we some schools have uniforms. There you go. So, which puts everybody on the same playing school, but we didn't. And I just noticed that, kids would look to see, what, people were wearing and things like that. And it was a judgment tool. And unfortunately, kids can be kind of cruel. And, a lot of people couldn't buy the most popular things. And so then, you're not getting to know the person, you're judging them by their clothing. And that was completely wrong. And at a young age, I knew that that was not the way that it should be.
We were quite lucky in the UK, in as much as most of the schools here, you have to wear a uniform. So the only thing that's being judged really is your footwear or your bag. And even then, back in when I was a teen, that was bad enough. If you had like the wrong shoes on, you still got picked on. So I think having a uniform is taken away some of that judgment. And I can understand why yourself didn't want to get involved with all of that. So how long have you been proactively campaigning for naturism and nudism in your official roles?
I would say it's about 4 years. I mean, I was a home nudist for the longest time, and I didn't even realize that there were people like me. I just thought I just liked being nude, and that was pretty much it. And then I went on the Big Nude Boat in 2019 and met some people from American Association for Nude Recreation. And I kind of looked into it, but I was like, hey, I'm already a nudist. What can you teach me? Well, I didn't realize that there was a lot that they could teach me, and I decided to get on the board. I've been serving for 4 years, and then I decided, hey, I love it. I just think it's something that I want to share with everybody. And so then that's when I went onto social media, and then it just kind of went from there.
And we talk about naturism and nudism and clothes free, but do they all mean the same things or do they have different meanings depending on which country you're from?
That's difficult because, yeah, I call them a descriptor because we have to call ourselves something. But nudism is definitely more USA centric, where naturism seems to be more globally. And I think that they're basically, I use them interchangeably, although I identify myself more as a naturist because a nudist is someone that I believe, subscribes to being nude, where a naturist is more centered globally, does, a lot of recycling, does things for the environment. And that's kind of where I fall. Those are the two basic descriptors that I use.
Yeah, and those two are also the ones that are probably misunderstood the most as well to the wider society. I know that in the UK, if you call yourself a nudist, you're literally just taking your clothes off, and there's usually some sort of connotation as to what that might look like, i.e., it might involve unnaturous behaviors, if you like. And it's trying to get the wider public to understand what naturism and nudism means and what it doesn't mean. And that's a huge battle, and why sometimes labels can be a bit restrictive.
I agree. I wish there was something that we could all basically agree on, especially to the textile public. And I use that as a descriptor. It is not derogatory because I have to live in the textile world. And so I use these as descriptors and I don't say them in a derogatory way, although sometimes it is ascribed as that. So
We all have to live in the textile world at the moment because, that's what society depicts. How do you find the pressures of having to go to an organized clothing event, maybe like a dinner or a dance or something? How does that make you feel where you've got to make an effort?
it is an effort because since I am nude like 25/8 in my house, I don't buy clothes. I just don't. And so most of my stuff is not very fashionable. And so it is. It's just like, okay, I will do it because, like I said, I do live in the textile world and, I do go to events, weddings, and parties and things like that. But if there's a chance to go to a nude event, I am there first. So
Well, if you hang on to those clothes long enough, they will come back in fashion at some point. Bring
oh
out
my
the old rah
gosh.
rah skirts again.
Oh my gosh, or the bell-bottom jeans and stuff like that. Yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
my
You're
daughter
right.
would kill for those. She's well into the flares at the moment. She loves them. So yeah, hang on to them.
I will.
You're very, very active promoting and campaigning for naturism. How much does it impact your life on a day-to-day basis? And what does that look like for you?
Basically, I'm retired, and so I spend just about all my time when I'm not doing other, charity events or being with friends and family. I've made it my mission. I don't want to call it a job, but I've made it my mission because I believe so wholeheartedly in it that I am 110% dedicated to trying to educate people on what a wonderful nude philosophy this is.
So, what is it that drives you to do that? What's the message you want to portray to people?
It's one of those things that I think there are so many upsides and very little downsides. I mean, just the body positivity. I think that if women saw their bodies and learned to love them instead of hating them and trying to do the surgeries and wearing the tight garments and doing plastic surgery and doing things with their hair and makeup, things like that, if they didn't have to worry about what other people think and just what was in their mind. And I think a lot of it is mental too. I mean, we've got young kids that are they're cutting themselves or they're committing suicide because somebody told them they were fat and it went on social media and they're just traumatized at that point. So there's mental benefits, body positivity, and you just don't get hung up on clothes. I think also there's a deeper relationship when you are with nude friends because they understand you and you're not putting on pretenses. I mean, there's just so many things I could talk for an hour on it.
But so a lot of what you said is about unlearning what has already been taught to you. So, for example, I grew up being taught that nudity was sexual, that I had to look a certain way in order to be desirable. I needed to be a certain size. So, how do you go about reteaching women? Because society is still telling them that they need to look a certain way. Now I've gone, sod it, I don't really mind. I've made peace with myself, but it took a long, long, long time. How do we get in there earlier for other women and young people?
That is the million-dollar question because it's a lot of education. You're right, it's a lot of unlearning because I know that I was raised for the beauty queens and the whole thing with Hollywood. So, everything is this artificial perfection that we are being held to that doesn't even exist. There is nobody that is absolutely perfect. And so, unfortunately, we're told that if we don't attain that, then we're something less. And so, of course, they just have their whole mind bending thing. So, trying to what I call peel the onion and finding out what we need to do. Is it something that's religious? Is it something that's society? Do they not love their body? Were they told that being nude in front of someone else was a sin? People have different reasons why. A lot of it is women and their weight. They think that they are too fat. I hear this, I don't have the body for it. Yes, you do. But it's just trying to let them know that it's okay. It's okay not to try to attain the Barbie status, so to speak.
But it's a massive hurdle for women to overcome when you've been told that or you'll tell yourself that you're fat, or that you've got too many scars, or you've got too many lumps and bumps. And it's all very well other people saying it's okay, naturism's not like that. To actually be, if you want, brave enough to take your clothes off in unfamiliar surroundings is very easy for us to say to people, it's fine, no one judges. But for women to make that first step through is really, really hard. How can we encourage women to say it's not actually that hard? And yeah, you might be a certain size, but so is the next person you're going to see. Or you might see people with a stormer bag or mastectomy cancer survivors. There's going to be all sorts, but we're all there because we've stripped back, and all of the insecurities we've left back at home with our clothes. How do we explain that so that everybody understands where we're coming from?
That's where the education really comes in because people really need to, especially women, and it's not just women. Men have come to me and said, Linda, we have the same issues with our body. We're held to a certain standard too. But for men, it seems to be just a little bit easier for them to make that plunge where women have been so ingrained with these things that they have to do and the perfection and things like that, that you really need to work with women. I do women's events, I do women's Zooms, and it's different conversation with each one because they're all at a different level. It's not like saying, okay, we're all going to go to this club and see how people are. Some people are asking, well, can I wear clothes when I first walk in? Or are people going to stare at me? And so they have real concerns that need to be addressed before I can even get them to that front gate.
And a lot of it, do you think, is about preconceived ideas of how men are going to behave towards them when they're in a nude environment?
Yeah, that's definitely a concern because they know, they've been told that if they're not perfect, men aren't going to date them or marry them or something like that. So then we put them in being an extremely vulnerable position. And there's men there too. And a lot of people said, well, a lot of women said, I can't do it if there's going to be men there. And I said, well, they have the same mindset. They'll look you in the eyes, they'll talk to you. They are not judging you at any point. They have a different mind shift. And that's a big hurdle for them to really wrap their heads around too.
So, what can men do? I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. Within the naturist environment, men and women are there for the very same reasons, and that's body freedom, liberation, and community and friendship. And I know that, like within naturism, I personally have stopped seeing gender. It's people. But I've also experienced in the early days, maybe men were being too kind and too helpful and too much attention towards me. Maybe they were meaning well, but I found it a little bit overwhelming. What do you think they could do differently?
That's true. I know that men really do want to have women share the experience. And they have told me, oh, I went there and all of a sudden all these men were starting to talk to me. And I said, well, they probably just wanted to welcome you. They were glad that you were there, but it can be a little overwhelming. So, men ask me, what can I do? If they're just talking about going to a club, a woman walks in, they don't need to be rescued. They don't need to be beset by everybody. Just let them walk in. And if they have questions, they'll come talk to you, but don't overwhelm them because they're at their most vulnerable at that point. Now, if it's somebody that they're asking if their spouse or their sister or mother wants to get into it, I always say work with them, but be patient. Do not force the issue, because if you force the issue, you're never going to get them back in. If you let them do it on their time where they believe that they're ready or it was their idea. And I think, Helen, you're the perfect example of that is, you went to that event where they were drawing, everybody was nude but you, and you were going to keep those clothes on, but then you realized how much more you stuck out with the clothes. And then when you took them off, there was no brass band, the heavens didn't open, no one clapped. It was like, okay, you're just one of us. And so it's getting to that point where they realize that, when they take the clothes off, they'll just be just like everybody else.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when I agreed to do that normalizing naturism life drawing class, I absolutely was not going to take my clothes off until I actually went there. And I think the hardest part at first was seeing all the other naked people. Eventually, I got used to that and happened to have chosen the hottest day to go. And I did feel really silly being the only one sweating in a dress. So I just quietly took it off. And like you say, nothing happened. And that was the moment I thought, wow, no one's talking to my boobs. Everyone's talking to my eyes. People are just still drinking their tea or doing what they were doing already, with no attention or regard to what I was doing. And that was the moment I thought, yeah, I get it now. I understand what this is all about. So yeah, if I can tell that story over and over again and help maybe one person, because it's helped me over the year, well, in the last 3 years. So if getting other women to share their stories as well is partly why I'm doing, well, why we're doing what we're doing and why we're doing this podcast, is to bring naturism as a really healthy way to live.
Absolutely is. I mean, if you wake up in the morning and you don't have to worry about really what you look like, you look in the mirror and you say, hey, I look fabulous, and you just take off instead of sitting there thinking, okay, my friend looks better than I do, or she has better clothes, or, I need to do something with my hair. I need to spend money to try to make myself look better. You're still mentally, you have these issues. And if you could just wake up and go, hey, I'm fabulous. Can you imagine what that would be like for a lot of women?
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say women in naturism don't take a pride in their appearance. I still get my hair done, or sometimes I'll put makeup on, and I even have sparkly piercings because it's my work uniform. It's gonna sparkle.
No,
But
I
you're the same.
agree.
Do
Yeah.
you keep your hair nice and you present nicely as well? So it's not saying, well, we suddenly stop caring what we look like. We absolutely do care what we look like. We are just more comfortable within.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, we don't just let ourselves go. What it is it's just that I could tell you every flaw, on my body and what I would change. But I realize that if I'm changing, it's not because I want to change. It's because I think that society would, treat me more different or better or something like that. And I realize it doesn't matter what I do. Somebody's going to find a flaw somewhere. And so it's just like, this is my body. It shows a journey of, what I've done for my life. And I've made peace with it. If I could change a few things, I would. However, I don't. I don't actively say I'm going to get the surgery or do something because that's what society tells me. My mind says, no, you're good.
Yeah, and it's a good feeling because once you have sort of made peace with yourself, and maybe it does come with age. I wish I'd discovered this inner peace maybe 20 years ago and I'd have saved myself some bother, but it would be nice to be able to have gotten there earlier, save myself a lot of bother, like I say. Um, what advice would you give to a woman just curious about naturism? They're asking you a question, what's naturism all about? What's in it for me? What would you say?
I'd say, first of all, I ask questions about where they're coming from because the answer may be a little bit different. I mean, do they have very religious background, or is it something societal, where their spouse maybe can't see them nude or something like that? What is their relationship to nudity? Have you ever skinny dipped? And so that is, because somebody that hasn't skinny dipped, I'm not going to say, hey, let's go to a club and then, you can decide for yourself. It's going to be these steps where some people are a little more ready to listen to the message. But for the most part, it's like I say, if you haven't really done like a skinny dip or anything, just maybe sleep nude. Maybe when you get up in the morning, don't get dressed right away. See how that feels. Don't think that nudity has something to do with sex. I mean, obviously, you take a bath or a shower and you're not in your clothes. So just take a little bit longer and see how you feel about that and what kind of questions do you have. But I tell people what nudism and naturism is and what it isn't. It is not porn. It's not sex. Doesn't have anything to do with that. And so I try to tell them right off what it is not so they can, because that's going to be a question that's going to come up.
Yes, and it's still what society, the outside society, would consider what goes on until you bring them in. Like, as you know, we've done a few bits of media work and we've invited production companies into the Naturist Foundation where I work. And it's only when they're within our community and see it's just normal people doing normal things, they're just not wearing any clothes. By getting people in, they're seeing for themselves what it's actually like. And then they're having conversations with other people. And then those people are having conversations and again and again and again. So we're slowly outreaching the rest of the world.
Yeah, it by having them be on our turf, so to speak, they understand exactly what it's about because they've got misconceptions. When they walk in that door, you know what they're thinking, and it's probably all going to be wrong. But then when they actually see it, they see how people interact, they see that you're speaking to people in their eyes, and we aren't acting in a sexual manner. I think a lot of those misconceptions just fall away. And if we can get good media on that, where it isn't joking and they don't use nudity as some kind of schoolboy snigger, then I think that's going to help a lot if we can get more into the mainstream media about the good, positive things, not the crazy nude running down the street type media.
So overall, how can women help, firstly, in desexualizing nudity in the mainstream?
That's the rough part because if we knew that, we'd be the queens here.
Mm.
I think it's just telling our story because a lot of women, I think that they're the only ones that feel this way. I can't do it. I am hideous. I just can't ever fathom that. So it's getting them to be educated to realize it's not. And once they kind of get that in their mind, then kind of moving them to the next thing, which would be going to a club or an event. But it's really education. It comes down to educate because we have to educate what it's about and what it's not so that when they are ready to walk in that door, all the misconceptions just kind of fall away.
I can provide an example of what not to do in this situation. There was a man who visited the Naturist Foundation by himself and was asking lots of questions and asking my story. And I gave him an article from H&E magazine, my very first article, so he could see for himself my journey. A couple of days later, he phoned and asked about booking a second person in. And I said, who might that be? And he said, my wife. I went, oh, good. You've had a conversation with her. You've told her about it. And he went, no. I went, obviously, you know your wife better than I do. But if that was my husband doing it, I would kill you. So basically, he'd booked her in and wasn't going to tell her where they were going. So anyway, she did come. She didn't come inside the gate. She was cross. She was angry. And he said to me, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. I said, yes, you should, because you'll probably never get her here again now. So, that's a classic example of what not to do.
I agree. And I've had those conversations with men. I mean, some surprises are nice, like getting money or, a nice cake for your birthday, but
Yeah, flowers are
ambush
nice.
ambush nudity is never going to work. It's not, you put somebody in there and they're go, oh yeah, that's great. It's like skydiving. Hey, you want to go have fun? Let's throw you out of a plane. Doesn't work. There's just some things that don't translate. And ambushing somebody, you're right. She is never going to go. She's never going to think about that ever again. She's going to be running past that gate, and I think he basically ruined that chance for her, really.
I think so too. And another relatable is with Simon and me. The more he went on about naturism in the early days, the more irritated I became. So he had to pick his moments. He didn't shut down the conversation. He would take that little bit longer to get dressed, therefore keeping the conversation going. So it never kind of went away. And I eventually knew it was never going to go away. And then the lockdown came, and with the lockdown came a shift in attitude for me, and realized life was too short. And I kind of gave up the fight and just went, yes, whatever, go be naked. All right, I'll come with you, but I'm keeping my clothes on. But he always knew that I would benefit from it, which is why he gently kept the conversation going.
That's the key. He kept it going gently. He was very patient because it had to be your idea. It really did have to be your idea. I mean, he suggested the event and you were going to keep those clothes on, but when you got there, there was a shift. And so now you've owned that and you've made it yours and you were ready. You weren't ready before, but you were ready then. And see how well it worked out. But had he forced the issue, I have a feeling that it wouldn't have boded well for your relationship or nudism.
Yes, and you've met us both now, so you can categorically say that.
Great couple. Great couple.
Bless. But if it wasn't for him and naturism, I wouldn't have met you and the wider community either. So it's win-win-win.
It is. And that's another thing that I say, the friendships are so much on a deeper level. When the relationship that I have with women, it's not a competition. It's not who looks better and who has a better job, because frankly, you don't even really talk about that. It's on a deeper level. So the friendships I have with women, I mean, we would, die for each other. It just because we're on this different level. And that's what I think is so wonderful. And then I let them know that when you meet these women, you're going to be so impressed. And a couple have told me, I went to a club and I got like 10 phone numbers because, we started talking and I wanted to keep in contact with these ladies. And so it's a camaraderie. You're not there by yourself. You're going to meet somebody and it's going to be something that reinforces why naturism is so wonderful.
It's strange because you're right, with these friendships, there's no expectations, and there's a realness about everyone you meet. There's no facade. It's all genuine. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to get on with everybody all of the time, but everyone's got your back. Everyone's got your best interests at heart, and no one is judging you. And that is the beauty of it. And I think that's why so many women, once they do experience it, do want to tell everybody.
That's why I think the storytelling from women is so important, because I have a different story from yours and mine is not as compelling, but it showed that I started off younger and had a better, body positivity before I even knew that's what it was called. More, of a mental look, that nudity was not shameful or anything like that. You have a compelling story because you just kind of flipped the script right, as you were sitting there. And so everybody's going to have a story and there's going to be that one person that says, that's me. And that's why I went on social media, because I said, there's going to be someone that's going to go, hey, if she could do it, I can do it. And that's exactly what I want to show. You're not alone in this. There's somebody out there that probably has a similar story and look what they've done. So you could do it.
That's the beauty of social media and also the Women in Focus series. The idea is to build up a library of women so that other women will be able to find someone to relate to or identify with or recognize themselves from. So the more women that contribute and share their stories, thoughts and feelings, the more chance we'll have of sharing the love.
The stories are so different that it really is interesting, because I kind of forget that where some other people started. And so to hear their stories of their journey to naturism is exciting to me, because it's just like one more person that discovered it and loves it. And hopefully somebody will read that and say, I could do that because they were able to do it.
Yeah, some people say to me, I don't know if it's the same with you, maybe family members or wider family members. We went for dinner a couple of weeks ago with Simon's auntie that was visiting from Australia. And there was about 15 people that I maybe hadn't even met yet, but they all knew about the naturism. And they said to me, I think you're very brave. And I said, I don't see it as being brave. I see it as making the most of an opportunity to normalize naturism and say, look, hey, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
The fact that they use the word brave lets
Yeah.
me know that it's a scary thought of being, I mean, really, we're asking women to be at their most vulnerable and be nude and, embrace something that they've never thought about. And it's probably the scariest thing to them. And so once you tell them it's not scary, the sky's the limit for them.
Yeah, you can only tell them that if you've experienced it yourself, though. I never thought it would. I would. I never thought I would. With my background of like, no, naked, don't be silly. I'll be vulnerable. People will abuse me. People will take advantage of me. Or I'd actually go as far as to say that being in a naturist environment is my safe place.
It's very telling because that would be very scary to somebody else, but it is a safe place because you know that the people are probably going to be vetted. People have the same mindset. And so that it's great to hear that you feel safe there because that's, I think, a big concern for women there.
Yeah, and I know that if anything untoward was to start to happen, it would be dealt with immediately because everyone's got your back. It's
Oh,
not
that's true.
tolerated. Yeah.
No, that's true, and I've seen men talk to other men when they've seen them trying to take pictures or something like that. And usually, if you're going to be at a club or a resort for the wrong reasons, you're going to be outed pretty quickly by your behavior. Now, being on a beach or somewhere free, the public is able to be there, and so you might have some bad actors. But yeah, the community really does, close in on the people that are not there for the right reasons.
Talking of beaches in America, how do you manage bad behavior towards naturists?
It depends on the kind of beach. Like we have Hollover, they have beach ambassadors, which is great because they're actively looking for that kind of bad behavior. Or if you see something, you can say to a beach ambassador, I'm concerned about behavior. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm a beach ambassador for my unofficial nude beach, but the only thing is I say for women, don't let that be your first experience because there are people that are there, the public, and they could be there for the wrong reasons. And if you don't have somebody to go to, that could be a little daunting. Once you have the tools and the mechanism to say that's inappropriate behavior, then that's okay. But it's self-policing, it really is.
I still haven't been to a nude beach in the UK.
Oh, you have to go.
The only nude beach I've been to is with you in Antigua.
It's good to know. And we had fun there. That was great. Then we had to put our clothes on at the gate.
Yeah, but we got to go there and it was a beautiful beach.
Yeah, I
Lovely.
really enjoyed it. I like to go now, before because we travel. It was always we're going to go to museums and stuff like that. Now it's like I'm all about the nude beaches and the nude resorts and how can I meet my new friend. That's what I want to do. So
Well, I'm going to have to rein it in over the winter. It's too cold here unless I jet off to Florida again for the winter. That'll be nice.
yeah, I kind of take it for granted because in California it's usually pretty temperate weather and I'm nude in my house 25/8,
You're
but
nude
even
right now, and
outside.
I've got a big roll neck sweater on.
Well, let me put it this way. I have taken pictures in what would be, 40 degrees Fahrenheit out there for social media where it's been a little chilly, but hey, I was not going to miss that because it was such a beautiful outdoor picture that suffered for my craft. So I've been a little chilly out there, but it's something about feeling the wind on your body and the elements. It just is really rejuvenating. Sometimes a little more than others.
I did the naked snow angel last winter. I was literally on the ground for like 3 seconds and then I was gone.
I saw that and I was trying to find some place that I could get to that had enough snow because there was like no snow it doesn't really snow where I am in California, but in Utah where I have a place, it doesn't snow there either. So I was trying to drive and I wanted to make that snow angel. That's one on my bucket list. And one day I will do that. I will freeze my butt off and do that.
I think it's Christmas in London that you need to experience.
I will do that. I will definitely do that.
So, any further thoughts, Linda, about our campaigning for women in naturism?
I think we're doing all the right things. It's just that we need to, I think, get it out to a wider audience, get it out to the mainstream media that doesn't treat it as a joke, that treats it as we're not a fringe or anything like that, that it's an actual healthy movement. And I think we need to, I'm working actually with other groups like women that have some issues with their body. So I'm kind of talking to them and kind of bringing that conversation, bringing it up to different groups that have asked me, what is naturism? Well, let me tell you about it. An hour later, I'm trying to convince them. But I want to talk about it. The more we talk about it and get that information out, because there really is no magic bullet. I think you're doing great work. I'm trying to do some work. We're both part of organizations that, have programs for women. I think it's just getting it out and legitimizing naturism out in the public.
That's right. And the more you talk about it in public, the less weird it becomes. We have a sign on our front door saying the person answering the door may be nude. And it's just a good way of people saying, "Oh, you're a naturist," or the man delivering the mail or whatever. "Oh, they're a naturist in that house. Oh yeah, I know someone." And so it goes on. So the more out there it is, the less out there it is.
It's true. I mean, I was really surprised when somebody asked me, "So, what's a naturist?" And I thought, "Geez, I live this way." But somebody had a question that didn't actually know, and I keep forgetting that a lot of people really don't know what it is or what is a nudist or, people that live a nude, non-sexual life. That's why I said it's a lot of education out there.
So one simple question I've got for you, Linda: why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why do I do what I do? Um, it's one of those things that when I lived it and I discovered how wonderful it was, I couldn't keep it to myself. I didn't want to keep it to myself. I wanted to share it with, women and men and anybody that was interested in it because I think it's so beneficial that can talk for hours about what the benefits are. And I think it's something that needs to be shared.
There are so many health benefits. When you're nude, you're more aware of your body and any changes that might be happening within your body. And I think it was last year, I was literally just rubbing my chest and I discovered a lump. And I was like, "Ooh, I've got a lump there." Anyway, the point is, got it dealt with. It was nothing sinister. But because I was nude and aware of differences going on in my body, I was able to act on it very, very quickly. And, things like that, on top of all the wellness and well-being and mental freeing and liberation, there is a real physical benefit to being nude as well that I wanted to share.
That is so true because a lot of women have been taught that they're not supposed to be touching their bodies, that it's sinful, and they don't even really look at their bodies. And so yeah, as naturists, I think we're more aware. I've noticed that I've been more aware of issues and was able to deal with it right away. And so that's once again a health benefit that we don't fear our body. We see something that's different and we go and get it treated.
Yeah, and that's people, that's men as well, noticing differences within their bodies and calling out any changes. Well, you feel it more. You're just aware of changes going on because you get to know your body.
That's so true. We know everything about it, and it's mentally better and health reasons too.
Mentally, it is really, really freeing to just get rid of the shackles of society's standards of what you need to look like to validate yourself as a person or as a woman. And that's all nonsense. And I just want everyone to know that's all nonsense.
I agree. I could not even agree any more than that with that statement.
Thank you, Linda. That was amazing. I'm really, really excited about this series, and we've got loads of guests lined up to take part. If you want to know more about Linda, her details will be on the show notes. So I want to tell you a little bit more about British Naturism. British Naturism is an organisation that was created 60 years ago. It is an organisation that campaigns heavily to normalise naturism by way of running events, awareness on the TV and media, looking for opportunities where we can promote normalising naturism. The events we do are all sorts. They're big festivals like Nude Fest, which is annual. You usually see about 700 people at those. Then you've got dining events, walking events, charity events. We raise a lot of money for British Heart Foundation, doing naked heart walks and skinny dips. Anything really where we can get together as an organisation, get our members involved and just have fun. British Naturism is a member organisation and you can also join today. It costs less than £5 a month. Log on to bn.org.uk to find out more. We'd love to hear from you at Women in Focus. So if you'd like to get in touch, you can email us at womeninfocus@bn.org.uk or for more information, you can log on to bn.org.uk/women. Thank you very much for being with us, and really look forward to bringing you more stories of women in focus. Till next time.